All right, I'm here real quick to make a video. This is not going to be a video for any technique or skill or anything like that. What I'm going to go over today is how I set up my rifle and why I set it up with the things and the places that it is, the parts that I have on it. All of it is there for a purpose. It's not meant to look cool or look tactical or anything like that. I have it all there for a purpose, and I'm just going to go over that. So for you new shooters that you just got a rifle, maybe there's things that you can take from this that you can take from the things I've learned over, about the past decade of shooting and training every single week, and things that I've discovered work and things I've discovered don't work, and why my rifle is set up the way that it is. For those of you who've been shooting for a while, maybe you'll see something on here that you hadn't thought about and that you want to try out, and if not, that's fine. So real quick, so to start, my rifle, I'm running a 16-inch BCM upper, and I think this is it's a Palmetto lower. Not super important what lower you have. Some people say it is. My opinion, it's not. Lowers can break. Some don't break. A lower is kind of a lower. A lot are made in the same factory, so not a huge deal. The upper is a little bit of a bigger deal. It's where most of the trauma and action of the gun takes place. So I'll start with my rail. The rail that I have on this, it's a 16-inch barrel, like I said. The rail is a 15-inch, I believe it's a 15-inch rail. So it's the BCM Key Mod. This is the Gen 1. I got this right after the Key Mod, the BCM Key Mod first came out. So I've had this rail on this gun for about 4 years now, probably 4.5 years. And it's just as good now as it was when I got it, and I run the gun pretty hard. So I highly recommend whatever you run on your rifle that depending on how long your barrel is, that you run a rail that goes basically to the end of your barrel, about an inch short. Have it pull up an inch short. You don't want to go in right to the edge of the barrel. You could have problems with that. But 15-inch rail to a 16-inch barrel. Now, some of you might be issued with your department or your agency a 14.5-inch barrel. I know a lot of people do that. I know in a lot of special operations teams, they issue 14.5-inch barrels. Some of you may have a 10.5-inch barrel. Whatever it is, that's fine. I recommend a long rail just about an inch short of the end of the muzzle. And here's why. The rail is important because ideally you want a free float rail. Now what that means is, I'm going to point here at the camera. I don't know if you can see it, but the barrel in there doesn't actually touch the rail doesn't actually touch the barrel anywhere. The only place that the barrel is connected is right here at the base, and it doesn't touch the rail. The rail is separate of it. That's important, and the reason why that's important, and this will have to do with why I recommend a longer rail, is if you put pressure on the rail, like if you put on your barrel, if you put your barrel against something and fired, it can actually change the impact of where your bullet hits. At 100 yards, I've heard of guys testing it and pushing pressure onto like the side of a wall and firing at a target at 100 yards. Pressure on the barrel, not the rail, but the barrel. And the impact can vary from 6 inches to even a foot. So you want your barrel to actually shoot free and be able to move free. If you want a good video on this, I recommend going and looking at the Larry Vickers channel and watch his video that is the slow motion of the inner workings of an AR-15, and you'll see how the barrel moves separate of the rail. So having a free float rail so the barrel doesn't touch the rail will help with accuracy. Now, why do I want a long rail? One, it gives you more real estate in case you want to use it, unless you're putting lasers or lights, whatever on it. Gives you more room to work with. Also, having the ability to grab the rifle out toward the end of the muzzle actually, through physics, gives you better control of the gun. So if you're holding it here, swinging from target to target or whatever, you have all this out here movement that is not controlled, that you're having to control from back here. If you grab it out here, you have a lot better control of the rifle. So having a longer rail allows you to get your hand further out towards the muzzle where the blast is happening, and that will help you control the muzzle for faster follow-up shots, for transitioning from different targets, things like that, for even getting the gun up, snapping the gun up. Also, having a longer rail and having it free float is a big help when shooting around barriers, around cover, around concealment, anything that you're jamming your rifle up against. The reason why is because I can go up to the edge of a car, to a wall, to a barrier, anything, and I can, if it's here, I can put my barrel right there and I can press my rifle against it to stabilize it, and all the pressure is just on the rail and it does not touch the barrel itself. So you can jam it up into tight spots, you can jam it up against a wall, against a car bumper, any of these things, and what it's going to do is it's just going to put the pressure on the rail itself, and it's not going to change the impact of your round. And that's a big deal. So having a free float barrel that goes all the way out gives you a lot more options to shoot against barriers, against cover, to jam your gun up against them to get better stabilization. The rail will come into play again here in a second, talking about another part. Okay, so that's the rail, and so once again, 15-inch rail. Try to get a rail that's a free floating rail, and so the barrel isn't touching it, and also that goes about an inch to the end of your muzzle. I think that's super important. So moving on from that, the light that I have. So I'm not like a lot of the guys online that you'll see who have, you know, all the most expensive, fanciest gear. My setup is nice. It's very nice. I can't afford a Surefire. Someday I will do upgrades, and I've upgraded my rifle. But right now I'm just running it's the Inforce WML. I like it. I've had it on here for a number of years. I've used it training. I've used it, I've used it like actually doing more real operations, doing patrols. I've used it at night on those patrols. I've used it doing some convoy security, stuff like that. And I really like this light. It's a good light. It's inexpensive. I want to say it's maybe around $100, maybe just over. I can't remember right now. The pressure pad is angled, so it's actually really nice for your thumb. That's what it's built for, but I actually don't use it for my thumb. I have it positioned, if you can look at it, it's positioned right there so there's the side of my rifle. It's positioned right there, you know, depending on what you're looking at 7 o'clock. But it's down here on the side. The reason why I place it there on the side, I don't do it on the top. I don't have it completely on the side at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I used to run it right here at about 2 o'clock, and what I discovered is I was working at night in some urban areas, and I had it up there to where I could activate it nicely with my thumb up in that spot. And what I realized is that when I went to my left shoulder, I couldn't get my hand around very well to activate it. So I moved it to this spot. So instead, when I'm firing like this, when I'm firing strong hand, I can hit it with my finger. If I go over to my left and I have to go left, I can hit it with this finger. So it's really easy. It's a sturdy light. It's easy to take on and off. I recommend this light, especially if you're on a budget and you want a good piece of equipment. This is a good piece of equipment. It will work. So that's why I have my light. That's where I have my light, and that's why. I think it's important to be able to access your light from both shoulders. So if you're shooting right shoulder, you can access it comfortably. And if you move to your left shoulder, find a place where you can still access that light. I think that's really important. And that's something that I learned actually kind of like actually working outside of training and actually doing a job with the rifle. So that's one thing I discovered while working. So highly recommend that. Moving from there, the sling. I mentioned in my previous video real quick that if you don't have a sling, get a sling. Sling is a must. And I recommend a 2-point sling. Now for a while when I was trying to save up my money to get more parts and build onto this, I actually just put 550 cord and put duct tape in a little like strip around it so it wouldn't cut into my neck, and I used that. But I recommend getting a 2-point sling that is adjustable. So this is the Vickers Tactical Sling. I've had this for about 4 years. Has this tab that you can pull out like that, and it extends. It makes the sling longer. You tighten it back in. It's kind of hard when it's not shouldered, but the sling tightens back in. And what that does is it makes it so that you can tighten the sling and tighten your rifle. This is built to have kit on to be tighter, but it can be tight around your body, or you can loosen it to get it out, which helps a lot if you're transitioning to your left shoulder. It gives you the length to go to your left shoulder. So I highly recommend. There's a lot of good 2-point slings out there. Faro Concepts, I think they have a really good one that I like. Vickers Tactical, this is one that I have. Viking Tactics, there's a lot. SOB Tactical, John McPhee puts out a really good sling, really minimalist and really good. So find a sling that's a 2-point sling, hopefully that's adjustable. Now, I have my sling set up here at the end of the rifle, about as far as I can get toward the muzzle and all the way to the stock. I have mine set with 550 cord. I don't have any actual like clip-ins that are officially for this. Same thing with right here. I might adjust it later, but I've been using this for a lot of years and I like it. And the reason why I like it is because the 550 cord doesn't rattle. There's no metal on metal. So there's no rattle. There's no hang up of, joints getting caught on each other. Also, this one right here, I have it at the exact length. I measured it out. So when I come across my left side, it's mainly the 550 cord that comes across my neck instead of trying to have like a big thing of sling coming across my neck. So it's measured out for comfort for shooting left shoulder. Another reason why I like it, or a reason why I like it having it from end to end, is that if you sling your rifle, let me tighten this, if you sling your rifle on your back or anything like you got to climb something, you're handling something, having it from the muzzle to the very rear is going to keep it tighter against your back, and it's not going to be smacking around and jangling. So it'll help with running, with climbing, any of those things. So I recommend that. A lot of people mount it to like right here and back here. That's fine. I like this for the better stability. Also, it gives me the ability when I shoot to be able to get my hand, if I'm shooting around cover or anything, I can actually use the sling to jam up against something. And I find I can get a lot of stability out of that, which leads me to this doodad. I got this idea from Pat McNamara. If you don't know him, look him up. He's, get some training from him. Probably one of the best trainers out there. He has a product called the Sling Ding, but I decided I could just create my own. And so what I'm using here is actually, it's Funny Pipe. It's Netafim Funny Pipe that is actually used in sprinkler systems. You could go down to a Home Depot or anything like that and get like a foot of it. I mean, super inexpensive. You could probably find some even in a dumpster at a construction site where they're putting in sprinklers, whatever. I cut off this little piece, and what I have it here for is that if I'm shooting against a wall, I can actually grab onto this and grab onto the wall and jam my gun back into it. So it's like a handle. I like it. It's simple, does a really good job, and helps with a lot of stability. So that's why I got this. Credit to Pat McNamara, Pat Mac, for his Sling Ding. Sorry I didn't buy it. I just created one out of Funny Pipe from a sprinkler system. So that's that, and it works really well. Okay, so moving down. The optic that I'm running a Vortex 1-4, the Viper. I think this is the PST Gen 1. Once again, I've had this on here for about 4 years. I really like it. I will upgrade in the future. Just will happen, I don't need to right now. With this optic, it's a 1-4 variable optic. The reticle inside, you can flip it on, and it lights up as a red dot. You can change how bright it is for night and for day. I really like it. Even sometimes in the day, I don't even flip it on, and it's a black etch reticle. So the reticle's always there, even if you run out of batteries. I really like that. It's a round reticle with a dot in the middle, and then lines, tick marks off to the side. So with this, on a 1 power, a no magnification, it shoots just like a red dot. People are going to tell you, I hear people say, you're going to shoot faster if you just have a red dot than even a variable optic. I don't know if I agree. I think it just depends on what you're using, because I can shoot pretty dang fast first shots, very fast, 0.4 seconds on a timer, on A-zone shots with this. So I can shoot really fast with this. It just takes practice to just get used to it, and that's going to be with any red dot or any sight that you get. I like this sight, fairly inexpensive. I think it's like $400 now. I'm running it, and I've shot with this optic out to 600 yards on steel. So, I mean, it works quite well. Now I think they have ones that go up to 1-6 or 1-8, so that would be great. Back then they didn't have that. They just had 1-4. Okay, so I'm running it on an Aero Precision mount. It's the minimalist one. I got this off of Frank Proctor's site, The Way of the Gun. Basically, anything that he's going to have on his site is going to be solid. So basically, if you see it there, it's going to be good to go. Hit up Frank. He's a good dude. Met him a couple years back. Highly recommend his stuff and highly recommend his training and following him. So I got this mount once again. Solid stuff on a budget. This mount cost me under $100. And it's still that much, and it's lightweight. It's not heavy. It hasn't moved on me, and I really like it. It's great. I mean, I don't see any reason to even move from it. So one thing I do on my guns, I don't know if you can see, I have white dots right there. I take a highlighter, a little paint highlighter, or a whiteout, I mean, and I put a dot next to everything when I mount it, so that I know that if I had to take this off, I know exactly where it remounts, so that they line up. Just something to think about, something to do. So if you ever have to take your optic off, you can see, okay, I got the white dots there. I know each screw lines up with a white dot. And you can mount it exactly how it was before, so you don't have to go through the same process of eye relief and all that. So just something to think about. So from there, I'm running the BCM stock. There's a lot of good stocks out there. Magpul has great stocks. BCM, I like this. It's very minimal. It's lightweight. I've used the Mission First Tactical one. It's really nice. It's minimal, lightweight. This is probably my favorite stock that I've used. One thing that it has that I really like is this little notch right here. So what this notch is for, and you can see I have a rubber band here. What it's for is that if you're storing your gun, so if you're in a car, if you're in a patrol car or a vehicle or your agency car, whatever it is, and you have your rifle, you don't want your sling just hanging around. Last thing you want is have to get out of your car and get caught up on something and lose your rifle. You can't even get your rifle, or it holds you up and you have a real problem while you need to get out. So what it does is it retains your sling. So you put a rubber band there. I'm just going to do it real quick. I usually do it a little bit better than this, but you get the point. It retains your sling, keeps it tight to your rifle, so you can store it in your vehicle. And this little notch is built right there to hold the rubber band in that spot. I really like that about BCM stocks. So once again, pretty inexpensive. So moving from there, the trigger, I'm running a Geissele trigger. You don't have to go with something that expensive. I really like this trigger. It's a flat bow trigger. I'm trying to get the light behind it. So it's flat. It's the Super Dynamic Combat trigger. It's really light. If you haven't been shooting for very long, I don't recommend this trigger because it's really light, and unless you're really comfortable with manipulating that trigger and not, shooting when you don't need to shoot, I don't recommend this trigger. It's a light trigger. It's awesome. If you've been shooting for a long time and you want to upgrade to a really nice clean break trigger, in my opinion, best trigger on the market, go with the Geissele, the SSA or the SDC, which is this one. It's more expensive, but you could get really any mil-spec trigger. I think BCM makes one that's really good. That's under $100 or $100. Is mil-spec, has a clean break and feels really good. So apart from that, the little doodads that I have on my gun, I got some Ranger bands here from John McPhee from Shrek, SOB Tactical Ranger bands. It just helps me get a good grip. I have a reference point, and it just helps me with grip. As well, I don't know if you can see here on the inside of it, I actually have the inside of a bike tube, let's see, wrapped around my grip. So a rubber bike tube. You can just go to a bike shop and ask them if they have any pop bike tubes they're throwing away. Take it, cut a piece off, and slide it around your grip. Works on a pistol too. Just gives you a stickier grip for when your hands get wet or sweaty or whatever it is. And then I have Magpul offset sights at 45 degrees. The reason why I have these sights is because with these first version of optics, you can't see through it if you put a sight in front of it. So you kind of have to have a 45 degree. If you're going to have a sight like this, or really any sight, I think that it's a must to have backup sights. Battery goes out, you break your optic, anything, you need to have backup sights. I'm not a huge fan of the 45 degree sights. Maybe it's just I suck at them, but I feel like they don't zero exactly how I want them to. But for more close range stuff, it works just fine. I've ran full days, just 45 degree sights, in case your optic goes out. So yeah, apart from that, I just had this American flag, little plates sitting around. I put it there, gives me a little reference point. Here on the bottom of my rail, I have this nub. This is a VZ grip, the short nub, made out of G10, so it's really lightweight. I used to run, a grip here, like a lot of people do. I actually took it off. I didn't ever hold the rifle like this because, that's kind of pushed out. No one really holds it that way because they realize that actually holding like this, you're going to get better stability. I had it on there for stabilization on my arm, for different positions. What I found was I was running a series of fire, and I went to shoot around a rock, a big boulder. I was up in the mountains, and I jammed that grip. It was a Magpul 4 grip against the rock to get stability, and it actually broke it off. So after that, I just took it off and threw it off to the side. I was not going to use it anymore. I got this. It gives me a good reference point for where I want my hand when I'm shooting out like that, but it also gives me, I can lock in with my finger. I can feel exactly where my hand is on the rail. And I like that. You don't need it, but I like it. So yeah, apart from that, I just have this little cloth thing, Tiger Stripes, just because I really like Tiger Stripe camo and I had it laying around. So I threw it on there. But yeah, so that's my rifle setup. That's why I set it up the way that I do. Everything's in a place that it needs to be, whether it's the rail covers right where my hand goes. These are the BCM rail covers. The main things are get a good 2-point sling, set it up to your body size. Get a good light, have it set up to where you can activate it from both while shooting from both shoulders comfortably. If that means you get a Surefire or something like that with a pressure pad, if that works for you, do it. If not, if you want to get one of these, find a position where you can activate it with both hands. And then have a good solid sturdy stock that's not going to break on you, and a good solid sturdy optic. So that's it. If you have any questions, once again, you can shoot me a question on my Instagram. It's cam_colt4, I think it's 45, or 453. I keep forgetting it. Let me look real quick. My goodness. cam_colt45. So CAM_COLT45. Shoot, if you have any questions about anything that I talked about, shoot me a message, and I can make you a video or shoot you a message back. So hope this helped some of you out.